Alright, here's part 2 on graphing quadratics. What I did in the last video was to go through with you the graphing of the parabola and finding the vertex. That's section 4.1. 4-2 is solving a quadratic equation. There's a lot of ways that we can solve. You're going to learn many different ways. Factoring quadratic equation, you'll use a calculator. For this, building some concept development, we're going to do it just kind of with a graph after you've graphed these. And so what I started to talk to you about in the last one is we are always going to set this quadratic function, which is the one we graphed in the previous video, and is on the board. We're going to take this quadratic function and have it equal to 0. And why do we do that? We do it because if it's equal to 0, this is in a sense y equals this. So if y is 0, then what you get for x is the answer to the problem. So in this case, our y's being 0 are x being -2 and x is -1. The answer to this problem, the two answers, with quadratics we have two answers to the problems. And x is equal to -2, x is equal to -1. So far on this. So how do we get that? By graphing. One, you could look at the table, but you may not always have two zeros on here. But take a look at the graph, and this is the beauty of the graph. Where the parabola crosses the x-axis, at those 2 points, those are your two solutions to the problem. So, the parabola crosses the x-axis at -1 and -2. -2, -1, those are our answers. So one of the other ways that you can figure out a solution to a quadratic is to graph it and find the zeros. That's going to be the phrase you hear us use all the time. Find the zeros. There's a 0, there's a 0. -2 and -1, and those are our answers. Guys and girls, you are not always going to get them landing on exactly the point, the coordinate. So what you're going to do for this lesson is maybe estimate. If it goes through at a point in between, kind of estimate what x is going to equal. Maybe in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4.5 would be an answer there. And then if it goes kind of through the coordinate there, that would be 7. So maybe 4.5 and 7 are the two answers. So this is going to be one of the big parts to what we do this year and as part of Algebra 2. And if you're planning to go to pre-calc, the idea of finding zeros. And this is just going to be the concept development. Set this equal to 0. Graph it like we've done. And find the zeros there. And that will be the two solutions. Now I have one last thing to share with you. And I'm going to erase this part right here. There are three possible types of solutions. The one that we just did has two solutions, meaning the parabola crosses the x-axis at two different spots. That is typically what happens. In and it's two real solutions. You can look in your textbook at the beginning of section 4-2. It will have some visuals like this too. There's a nice little box in section 4.2 in the notes. Two real solutions right there. The graph could look like this, and you would have two real solutions crossing here and crossing here. That's a negative graph. Even though the answers would still be negative, it's not because the graph is turned upside down. So things with two solutions. Things with one solution are when the vertex is on the x-axis. It doesn't cross below. It's that the vertex and the axis share the same point. Right there. And that means it's one solution. There's one real solution. The other option is if the graph looks like, I'm going to change colors here. If the graph looks like maybe this or like this, and neither one of these red graphs cross the x-axis. When that happens, there are no real solutions, meaning you can't say the answer is -4 or something like that. However, there are going to be solutions to this, and it's going to involve imaginary complex numbers to get your answers, and you'll deal with that later. I think it's section 4-5, which deals with complex numbers, where you get into negative roots. All right. So no solution, no real solutions. One real solution. Two real solutions. Okay. So that becomes. Actually, I want to take another quick second. When you're given function and you graph it, you may get a graph that looks like these red ones that don't cross the axis. That's okay, you haven't done anything wrong. Just understand that the answer is no real solutions. And later on in the chapter you'll be working on how to get it. Alright, so I've covered 4.1 and 4.2 for you guys. Please make sure you've seen these before class on Thursday. And if you haven't watched them, you'll be watching them in class somehow, somewhere. Take the notes, make some notes, and be able to get through the problems on those. All right, you guys, thank you very much.